Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited trade war has begun. In a dramatic move, former US President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs on goods imported into the United States. Effective this Saturday, a 10% baseline tariff will be imposed on all countries, including the UK and Europe. But that's just the beginning. Let's pause this video here for some important information. Do you want to create stunning videos effortlessly? Pictory AI lets you turn text into engaging videos in minutes, perfect for YouTube, marketing, and social media. No editing skills are needed. Try it now and start making pro-level content today. Click my affiliate link in the description to get started. Now let's proceed. Some nations will face even harsher penalties, with tariffs soaring up to 50% on selected goods. Trump declared this policy as a major step toward what he calls America's economic liberation. He said, "In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order, instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. They do it to us, we do it to them, very simple." This isn't just about a tit-for-tat trade war. Trump added that his administration has calculated additional trade barriers, including currency manipulation and restrictions on American exports like genetically modified crops and hormone-injected beef. The numbers are staggering. The UK faces a 10% tariff, but China? 34%. The European Union? 20%. Some poorer nations, like Cambodia and Myanmar, are being hit with nearly 50% tariffs. Reports from the UK indicate it will not rush into retaliation. It will continue discussions with the US to find a resolution, according to BBC News, at least. Economists throughout the world warn that these tariffs could trigger global trade disruption, with estimates suggesting that the new policies will cost countries huge amounts. For example, it will cost the UK an additional £6 to £7 billion per year in trade expenses. In addition to goods, foreign-made cars will now face a 25% tariff, starting at midnight. This move aims to push Americans toward domestic auto manufacturing. Governments all over the world are carefully watching, with some getting relieved the 10% tariff wasn't higher, but make no mistake, this is a significant economic hit. Economic experts say, this is a radical shift in global trade policy. The model of international trade as we know it is changing permanently. So what does this mean for businesses, consumers, and global relations? Follow me as we dive into further details in this video. Let's see Trump's tariffs on China, EU and more, at a glance. US President Donald Trump announced a sweeping new set of tariffs on Wednesday, arguing that they would allow the United States to economically flourish. These new import taxes, which Trump imposed via executive order, are expected to send economic shockwaves around the world. But the US president believes they are necessary to address trading imbalances and to protect American jobs and manufacturing. In the following section, we review the basic elements of the plan. What is the 10% baseline tariff Trump wants to impose? A senior White House official told reporters that the president would impose a baseline tariff on all imports to the US. That rate is set at 10% and will go into effect on the 5th of April. It is the companies that bring the foreign goods into the US that have to pay the tax to the government, although this could have knock-on effects to consumers. Some countries will only face the base rate of 10%. These include 1. United Kingdom, 2. Singapore, 3. Brazil, 4. Australia, 5. New Zealand, 6. Turkey, 7. Colombia, 8. Argentina, 9. El Salvador, 10. United Arab Emirates, 11. Saudi Arabia. Trump also wants to impose custom tariffs for worst offenders. What are these? White House officials also said that they would impose what they describe as specific reciprocal tariffs on roughly 60 of the worst offenders. These will go into effect on the 9th of April. Trump's officials say these countries charge higher tariffs on U.S. goods, impose non-tariff barriers to U.S. trade, or have otherwise acted in ways they feel undermine American economic goals. The key trading partners subject to these customized tariff rates include 1. European Union, 20%. 2. China, 54%, which includes earlier tariffs. 3. Vietnam, 46%. 4. Thailand, 36%. 5. Japan, 24%. 6. Cambodia, 49%. 7. South Africa, 30%. 8. Taiwan, 32%. But no additional tariffs were imposed on Canada and Mexico. The 10% baseline rate does not apply to Canada and Mexico, since they have already been targeted during Trump's presidency. The White House said it would deal with both countries using a framework set out in Trump's previous executive orders, which imposed tariffs on both countries as part of the administration's efforts to address the entry of fentanyl to the U.S. and border issues. Trump previously set those tariffs at 25% on all goods entering from both countries, before announcing some exemptions and delays. Trump would impose 25% tariffs on car imports. In addition, the president confirmed the beginning of a new American 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. This tariff went into effect almost immediately, at midnight local time. The big question here now is, are these tariffs a punishment or a gift? Here is how 5 big economies see new Trump tariffs. New trade tariffs unveiled by U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday are expected to have a major global impact, and have been condemned by the European Union and other key U.S. allies. But Trump's latest import taxes may get a different response in China, whose leader could see them as a gift. Europe could retaliate hard but doesn't want to escalate. The European Union, EU, says the new tax imports would cause dire consequences for millions of people around the globe, and that there was no clear path through the complexity and chaos that the new tariffs would unleash worldwide. But the Commission has promised to protect EU businesses, some of which will be more hard hit than others, like Germany's car industry, Italy's luxury goods, and France's wine and champagne producers. French president has called an emergency meeting of French business leaders later on Thursday. As the biggest single market in the world, the EU can hurt the US, targeting goods and services, including big tech like Apple and Meta, with countermeasures. But it says its aim is not to up the ante here, it's to persuade Trump to negotiate. On Wednesday night, Italian leader said that while she considered the tariffs wrong, everything would be done to try and reach an agreement with the US. The tariffs are a gift for Chinese leader. A 54% tariff hit on Chinese goods entering the US is certainly huge and will no doubt hurt Chinese companies trying to sell into that market. Beijing's countermeasures will also hurt US companies trying to reach the massive Chinese market. But, in one way, these moves from Trump are also a gift to Chinese President Xi Jinping. Xi is portraying his country as a champion of free trade, a backer of multilateral institutions, and making comparisons with the world's other superpower, which is seen as trashing both of these. Just last week, China's leader was sitting down with chief executives from big international corporations, including many from Europe, and the imagery was clear. The US under Donald Trump equals chaos, trade destruction, national self-interest. China under Xi Jinping equals stability, free trade, global cooperation. The Chinese government has already mobilized its state media sector to attack this latest round of tariffs from the Trump administration. People may quibble with the Chinese Communist Party's reading of where the world sits, but every time Trump takes measures like these, it makes Xi's sales pitch easier to deliver. And economic necessity may draw many countries closer to China and further from the US. There seems to be some relief but no delight in UK. Folks in government here had picked up a sense of the mood music, a sense that the UK was in the good camp rather than the bad camp, as one figure put it to me, but they had no idea in advance what that would mean exactly. But now we do know, a 10% tariff on the UK's exports to the US. I detect a sense of relief among ministers, but make no mistake, they are not delighted. The tariffs imposed on the UK will have significant effects, and the tariffs on the UK's trading partners will have a profound impact on jobs, industries and global trading flows in the weeks, months and years to come. It will be hugely disruptive, as one government source put it. There is an acute awareness in particular about the impact on the car industry. Negotiations with the US over a trade deal continue. Reports indicate a team of 4 UK negotiators are in pretty intensive conversation with their US counterparts, talking remotely, but willing to head to Washington if signing a deal appears imminent. India fears impacts, but some sectors have hope. Asian economies are among the hardest hit by Trump's new tariffs. Americans will have to pay a 46% tax on imported goods from Vietnam, and 49% for goods from Cambodia. Relatively speaking, India has fared better. But a 26% across-the-board tariff rate is still steep, and will severely affect major labor-intensive exports, says one official at an Asian consultancy. That will likely have a knock-on impact on domestic demand and headline gross domestic product GDP at a time when growth is already stuttering, according to Kishore. But India's electronics exports may potentially benefit, as higher tariffs on rivals such as Vietnam could lead to the rerouting of trade. That is unlikely to mitigate the overall negative growth impact of Trump's salvo though. Unlike Canada, Mexico or the European Union, India has so far adopted a conciliatory approach to Trump and is negotiating a bilateral deal with the US. Whether this triggers a retaliation in Delhi will be very closely watched. The pharmaceutical industry, which accounts for India's largest industrial exports at some $13 billion, £9.9 billion annually, will be breathing a sigh of relief, however, as medicines are exempt from these reciprocal tariffs. South Africa hits out, as the continent reels from aid cuts. Trump's reciprocal tariffs are targeting dozens of African countries, including 30% for South Africa and 50% for Lesotho. Many of these nations are already grappling with the effects of US foreign aid cuts, which provided health and humanitarian assistance to vulnerable countries. South Africa, like some of the continent's other biggest economies including Nigeria and Kenya, has long had open trade agreements with the US, and the new tariffs could significantly affect existing economic ties. It is included in the long list of countries dubbed the worst offenders that now face higher US rates, payback for unfair trade policies, Trump says. They have got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we are paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa, he said, before going on to name other countries. In a statement, the South African presidency condemned the new tariffs as punitive, saying they could serve as a barrier to trade and shared prosperity. Did you enjoy this update? If you did, please check out my next video on how countries have retaliated at the Explorer's Life and Learning Hub. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.